Hi, welcome to another edition of Engineering with Lego Bricks and Robolab. I'm Eric Wong, and I'll be your host. Okay, a little tutorial on wiring. So the wires in a graphical program indicate the flow control. The pink wire indicates the flow control. So if I follow the little pink wire from icon to icon, that'll tell me the flow of the program, how it proceeds. These green, blue, and orange wires indicate modifiers, or if you're used to text programming, it's an argument in a function. So we have here, for example, a function which says turn motors on forward. Well, which motors? Well, we're telling it we have to modify this by telling it motors A and B at power level 2. So we're using the modifiers A, B, C, and 2 to modify that function. Here we have a function which says wait for a given number of seconds. Well, how many seconds? 2.3 in this case. We've modified it with this number. And finally, we have a stop icon here, so we're telling it to stop the motors. Well, which motors? A and B. Now, the color is actually an indication of what type of argument it is. In this case, green is a Boolean, so 1 or 0 basically. A blue is an integer, and a orange is a floating point number. That's just the indication of what type of information you're passing back and forth. Okay, so I want to go over auto wiring and then removing bad wires. We're actually going to do those at the same time. So I'm going to delete one of these icons, and as soon as I delete it, I get these bad wires, these little broken lines, these black and white lines indicating bad wires. There's two ways to get rid of those. One is just select it. I can go and select it individually and select them, or I can go under Edit and I can do Remove Broken Wires, or Control B would be the shortcut. All right. So that's how you get rid of broken wires. Now, auto wiring, when I bring an icon over here, while I've got the mouse button held down, while I'm moving it around still, you can see it tries to wire itself to the nearest icon. And sometimes that would be correct, like here. But if I brought it over to this guy, it tries to wire to that one, and that's not correct. So you got to be careful where you put it down. If you just kind of slop them down over the place, it'll wire to the wrong thing. You have to go in and delete the wires. Okay, so that's auto wiring. I release the mouse button, and it puts it there, and it wires itself. I may want to re-enable auto wiring, because I want to put the icon next to it. It doesn't want to auto wire itself. So the way you do that is, I make sure I have my select tool, which is the arrow tool there, and I click on it, and while I've got my mouse button held down, I can move the icon around. While I'm moving the icon around, if I happen to press the space bar, it re-enables auto wiring. So you can wire pretty quickly by doing that. So while you have the mouse button held down and you can move it around, press space bar, and it auto wires itself. What if I don't want to do that? What if I didn't want to do auto wiring? Well, then I obviously just use the space bar, go to my wiring tool, and I can click on it, and I can, every time I press the mouse button, I can make loops and loops and loops of wires if I want, and finally end up at the right wire. When I have my wiring tool over a terminal, a place where you can wire, it tells me the name of that terminal. That's the begin, that's the end, that's the ports, that's the wait for seconds. So it gives you an indication of what you want to do. And we usually want to go from the end of one terminal to the beginning terminal of the next function. And there we go. And that's wiring in a nutshell. The two most common mistakes are, I'm going to go ahead and delete this wire now. Common mistake number one is I start at the beginning of one, or the end of one icon, and string right across to the beginning of the next. It looks like I wired to this guy. But what really is sitting, this icon is just sitting on top of that wire. It's not really wired. So, although it looks like it's wired, it's not. So that's the number one mistake people make. All right, the number two mistake people make is wiring by basically creating a bad wire by wiring it to itself. That is obviously a bad wire because you can see it's a bad wire. But this is a little less obvious. Do the same thing here. I've wired it to itself. I can try and move the icon. There's no bad wire. The bad wire is attached to this icon, but in the back. If I try and wire anything to this now, it's a bad wire. It doesn't allow me to wire anything. And I actually can't even go in and delete these because I can't select that bad wire. It's back there. So the only way to get rid of that is to use the Control B or Edit Remove Bad Wires. So if I go in and do that, now I can go in and wire like normal. And so those are the two most common problems: wiring behind an icon and wiring an icon basically to itself. So there you go.